Hello. Today we are thinking about the AI hype cycle and the Dunning Kruger effect. I'm Dr. Coates, and this is another clinical AI Grand Round. Let's begin with why. Why do we need to understand AI hype and the Dunning Kruger effect? Because AI will be a disruptive force. The ability to differentiate reality versus hype is crucial to how we experience this disruption. Without knowledge, doctors will be disrupted and displaced. With knowledge, we can navigate and even shape the wave of disruption that is newly upon us. On the right, we have the Dunning Kruger effect curve. On the left, we have the AI hype cycle curve. And here, on the right, we have the AI hype cycle, and on the left, the Dunning Kruger curve. Pretty similar, right? Well, the Dunning Kruger effect arises from a paper in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, published in 1999. This seminal paper by David Dunning and Justin Kruger, titled Unskilled and Unaware, highlighted a cognitive bias. In a series of experiments, participants with a low percentile score for a particular skill would consistently overestimate their ability. Conversely, participants with a high aptitude would tend to underestimate their performance. When this trend is mapped on a confidence-competence chart, it looks like this. Over time, the points in this curve have been described as early irrational exuberance, the peak of Mount Stupid, the trough of despair, the slope of enlightenment, and finally, the plateau of sustainability. We think about the Dunning Kruger effect in medical education because it is certainly an observed phenomenon. For example, when we begin practice, we are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, a touch unskilled but fully unaware. We run to every resuscitation, determined to try each role at least once. After our membership exams, we rush exuberantly to the peak of Mount Stupid. We've read it all. Therefore, we believe that we now know it all and won't be told otherwise. Trainers recognize the subsequent valley of sorrows, particularly in surgery. The operations are getting harder. More is expected. The patients come with problems that somehow weren't in the books that we read. We fail our fellowship exams. Reality bites, and we lose confidence. Program directors are rightly sensitive to this moment and ready to support trainees to reach a sustainable and safe level of operating confidence. Unmitigated, this crisis in confidence can result in a debilitating imposter syndrome and lead to career wastage and attrition. Interestingly, at the top end of performance, the converse is true. Dunning and Kruger found that study participants in the top quartile often underestimated their performance. For example, a skilled interventional cardiologist who has just performed a life-critical bypass might say, "It was nothing, I was just doing my job." This may be because they assume that others find things as easy as they do. Equally, experts are often circumspect. They know what they don't know. They maintain humility and a yearning to learn. Now, let's compare this to the AI hype cycle. This is a well-known model that describes the typical progression of a new technology as it moves from introduction to practical adoption. And if we overlay the Dunning-Kruger effect onto this cycle, some interesting parallels emerge. At the technology trigger, we see a surge of enthusiasm. It is characterized by a flood of new entrants onto the market. In 2025, radiologists are currently experiencing exuberance in computer vision AI. The exuberance can be irrational, particularly if there is superficial understanding of what AI can truly do in a clinical setting. At the peak of inflated expectations, we find an overestimation of the technology's current capabilities. AI vendors may purport to solve all problems, everywhere, all at once. Enthusiasts promote flawless solutions to complex medical problems. This mirrors the unskilled and unaware stage of the Dunning-Kruger effect. As we move into the trough of disillusionment, the initial hype often fades as the real challenges and limitations of AI in practice become apparent. Perhaps real patients don't match those simulated in datasets. Training data were rigorously cleaned, but life is noisy. There are one too many black swans wandering around. Initial overconfidence wanes as we encounter the complexities of implementation, data integration, and the nuances of clinical decision-making. We are now walking through the Valley of Sorrows. Finally, as we progress through the slope of enlightenment and towards the plateau of productivity, we see a more realistic and nuanced landscape emerge. Now, few dominant designs prevail. These AI apps have survived the selective pressure of working unsupervised in the wild and facing chaos, complexity, and ground truth on a daily basis. In medical training, we protect patients from the Dunning Kruger effect. The gung-ho resident is closely supervised. The surgeon in decision paralysis is mentored through their crisis of confidence. AI is also on a journey of achieving clinical competencies. How many will be harmed in the early phase of irrational exuberance? Who will protect patients on the journey from healthcare, Copilot version 1 to version 5? Doctors have a critical role in AI governance to ensure safety, trust, and accountability. We are the only person in the room who has taken a solemn vow to do no harm. We can positively engage, using AI to improve patient safety and care. However, we must also maintain a healthy skepticism and readily identify AI hype when confidence and competence are mismatched. Do share your thoughts on the Dunning Kruger effect and the AI hype cycle in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with at least one medical colleague or friend.